and welcome to Maverick Mastery episode 80. In this series, we go through certain VARC question types. This week, we are tackling parajumbles. There will be 5 questions that I solve, and I will give you my reasons of how I'm arriving at those answers. And there will be 5 questions that I expect you to practice on your own. The answer key for which will be present in the description box below. Okay, let's get to it. First question. These stars are ejected by, keywords that you should be paying attention to. These stars. There has to be some reference to stars certainly. These stars are ejected by gravitational slingshots located at the focal point of galaxy mergers, where a pair of supermassive black holes coalesce or combine while kicking stars out of the host galaxy. As the black hole pair tightens, okay, the black hole pair is being referenced. So maybe there is something about a black hole pair being talked of. A pair of supermassive black holes, and the black hole pair tightens. Its orbital speed rises, providing an even more powerful swing. Okay. The universe is full of elementary particles, but not everyone knows that it is also full of extremely fast stars moving freely through space like barracuda through the ocean. Okay. This seems very much like an opening statement, and this could also be in reference to these stars. Fourth statement, eventually this process launches some stars up to the speed of light in accordance with the Albert-Einstein special theory of relativity, making them what astrophysicists call relativistic. Clearly, because this is eventually, this sentence starts off with eventually, it will not be at the beginning of the sequence. So, of these 4 sentences, the one that should be at the beginning of the sequence is 3, and from 3 is also full of extremely fast stars that can be linked with these stars. So, 1 followed by a pair of supermassive black holes as the black hole pair tightens, followed by 2. And this is describing a process. 1, 2 is describing a process at the end of which eventually the process launches some stars up to the speed of light in accordance with whatever. The correct answer for this question will be 3, 1, 2, 4. Okay. Next question. Beginning with his bestseller, The Use of Lateral Thinking. Is bestseller. So somebody must have been referenced so far, hopefully. The Use of Lateral Thinking. De Bono's exotic brand of, the fact that De Bono is mentioned here also, either there is some place where full De Bono's name is mentioned, or we can't really say his bestseller needs to be mentioned somewhere. Anyway, De Bono's exotic brand of psychology takes aim at traditional logic, identifying it as the enemy of insight and invention. Okay. The Use of Lateral Thinking is a short book with a long reach. Now see, 1 and 2, both are mentioning that book, Use of Lateral Thinking. Both of them are mentioning the book. But this is talking more with the perspective of what the book is, a description of the book. And this is this is focused more on what De Bono does, and as he does it in the book, but this is what De Bono does, and this is more a description of the book. There is a slight distinction between them, despite both sentences mentioning the book. Okay. Eschewing means avoiding experiment, ignoring all existing studies and scholarship. De Bono's reputation as a thinker and proponent of lateral thinking is founded on nifty puzzles, a storehouse of anecdotes, an abundance of imperial generalities, no end of clunking analogies and neologisms, and a toolkit that was by no means as novel as his publishers or readers might have assumed. Okay. See, I know 3 has to come before 1, not necessarily immediately before, but this is the sentence where we are getting introduced to De Bono. So the de Bono's mention must, or description of his focus of quixotic brand of psychology must come after this. So 3 will precede 1. This I am keeping in mind. And then he has a reputation as a thinker and proponent of lateral thinking. It is based on blah 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 blah. Everything is mentioned. And towards the end of the sentence, that was by no means as novel as his publishers or readers might have assumed. So the author is also sort of giving away his personal opinion that de Bono has this reputation, but I don't really buy into it because I think otherwise. I think there is a alternate version. There are more things below the surface that we need to analyze. Okay. Providing no more than a few slight examples of how lateral thinking might work in practice, largely on the perception of shape and function in geometric forms. It proposed 4 vague principles for problem solving and creativity. Okay. This is the criticism or the stand against the idea that he was a thinker and proponent of lateral thinking, blah and blah. Okay. Now, we also have him identifying quixotic brand of psychology takes aim at traditional logic, identifying it as the enemy of insight and invention. This is also where being antithetical to the idea that de Bono was a thinker and a proponent of lateral thinking is getting reinforced. Now my challenge is see 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. I know 3 has to come before 1. So right now, 3, 1, 3, 1. 4 is at then 4 is at the end. I am torn between these two. It has to be 3, 1, 2, 4, not 3, 2, 1, 4, because see, 3 is talking of de Bono. 3 is talking of de Bono. Now, beginning with his bestseller, if we have his bestseller mentioned, the next statement should be about de Bono. We can't go from eschewing experiment, all existing studies and scholarship, de Bono, blah, blah, blah. And then we mention the book, the use of lateral thinking. Also, this book only has value. This book only has identity if it is his book. If it is not his book, the reference of this book would not make sense. So, it has to be 3, 1, 2, 4. It has to be 3, 1. Okay. This goes away. Identifying it is a short book with a long reach. And this is also wonderful. See, after 2, 4 should come because providing no more than a few slight examples of how lateral thinking might work in practice. It proposed what would be proposed? It would propose, or what is this it being referenced to here? It is the short book being referenced here. So 3, 1, 2, 4 will be the answer to this question. Okay. Okay. Next question now. We have the truth of a mathematical statement does not rely on historical context or the circumstances of the speaker. And the communicative norms of mathematics are fairly staid without subtle presuppositions and implications. Okay. Basically, the truth of mathematical statement is the absolute truth. It is not context driven. It is not perspective driven. It remains true regardless of the observer, regardless of the situation. And the communicative norms, the way in which information is transferred in mathematics, are fairly stable without any presuppositions or basically You don't have to make assumptions in order to understand mathematical statements. Mathematical statements take care of all possible cases. The universality of the statements is generally there. Okay. So a promising strategy for linguists and philosophers of language was to start with the modeling of mathematical language, where mechanics are more easily understood, and then adapt the models to accommodate a broader range of linguistic constructs. Okay. There are no modes or tenses, since mathematicians do not typically worry about when 7 became an odd number and what the world would have been like had it been even. For all the complexity of the subject, the structure of mathematical language is disarmingly simple. Okay. You see, of the 4 statements, the one statement that is introducing the idea, or that is basically introducing the idea of mathematical language, is this one. So this gives us the idea. The language of mathematical language is disarmingly simple. It is simple. And why is it simple? The description of that would be 1 or 3. It has to be 4, 1, or it has to be 4, 3. Now, 3 gives us there are no modes or tenses, and there are no modes or tenses, which would imply it is simple. The truth of mathematical statement does not rely on historical context or circumstances of the speaker, which would imply its absoluteness, which would imply its universality. Not the fact, but it would not imply the fact that it is simple as much as statement 3 would. So between the two of them, 4, 3 would win. Additionally, now we are left with 4, 3. Then once we have started, this is a completely new idea. Linguists and philosophers of language will start with the modeling of mathematical language, where the mechanics are more easily understood, and then adapt the models to accommodate a broader range of linguistic constructs. This is an entirely different idea. So it should be 4, 3, 1, 2. This says it is simple. This gives us a reason why it is simple. This gives us an additional feature of its universality. And this gives us, because of these 2 reasons, why it is used as the base model on which further linguistic constructs will be built. So the correct answer to this will be 4, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Next question now. The ongoing probe, which President Xi Jinping has personally endorsed as necessary to maintain social stability, has led to record fines for some tech titans and massive overhauls for others. But the heavy-handed approach could backfire on Beijing by stifling an entrepreneurial spirit that has proven vital to countries' rapid economic rise. Okay. China has cut its global tech champions down to size, cracking down on antitrust abuses and undue risk-taking. Several tech companies have been investigated in the past few months over alleged monopolistic behavior and other breaches of consumer rights. Okay. Now see, this sentence will come at the end. Sometimes in a parajumble, you're able to see the beginning sentence. Here, I'm able to see the end sentence, because this is giving a description of what has happened. This is giving a description of what has happened. This is giving a description of what has happened. But this is giving the alternate point of view. This description of this crackdown on tech giants, how it could potentially be counterproductive. So 2 is coming at the end. We know for certain. Now, 1 talks of the ongoing probe. So this cannot be the beginning. And several tech companies have been investigated in the past few months over alleged blah, blah, blah. This is more generic statement. China has cut its global tech champions down to size, cracking down on antitrust abuses and undue risk-taking. So 3 will be at the start. This is definitely there. 2 is at the end. So I will either have 3, 1, 4, 2 or 3, 4, 1, 2. These are the 2 options left. Now, in 3142. Tech champions down to size. The ongoing. Okay. First, you will talk of them being investigated. Only then will you talk of them having to pay record fines. First, the natural sequence of things should be first an investigation should happen. Only then would record fines happen. So between these two, the preferred order has to be 3412, and that will be the answer to this question. Next. It is a term you will be hearing increasingly. Okay. This is definitely not the beginning. They have been studying the sense of body from within, which is called interoception. Now, this is a new term, of course. Maybe one is following this statement too. Let's see. For the past few years, scientists working in neuroscience and psychology have been listening in on brain-body interactions in health and illness and analyzing how they constitute the always embodied self. This research, they 8, clearly 3 is the beginning statement again. Have I got a case where everywhere 3 is the beginning statement? Apart from the third question, everywhere 3 is the beginning statement. Okay. Scientists working in neuroscience and psychology have been listening in on blah, 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 blah. Now, I know 1, 2 as a pair would come. Sorry, not 1, 2. 2, 1 as a pair will come. 2, 1 as a pair will come. So it will either be 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 4, 2, 1. This seems more likely. Let me see. This research is dismantling the pillars of belief system that has long endured within those fields, as well as in popular imagination. That brain is an information processing machine that can be understood apart from the rest of the body, as if our conscious reasoning self were the output of a disembodied brain, as if we were not fully biological creatures. We have been studying the sense of body from within, which is called interoception. It is a term you will be hearing increasingly. I am genuinely torn. Should it be 3, 4, 2, 1? Should it be 3, 2, 1, 4? 2, 1 is definitely there. Which research? The same. But they have been listening in on blah, 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 analyzing how they constitute. Okay. It should be this. It should most definitely be this. Why? I'll read it in order and perhaps it will become apparent just by reading. Over the past few years, scientists working in neuroscience and psychology have been listening in on the brain-body interactions in health and illness and analyzing how they constitute the always embodied self. They have been studying the sense of the body from within, which is called interoception. It is a term you will be hearing increasingly. This research is dismantling the pillars of belief system that has long endured within those fields, as well as in popular imagination. That the brain is an information processing machine that can be understood apart from the rest of the body, as if our conscious, reasoning self were the output of an disembodied brain, and as if we were not fully biological creatures. Now see, 4 is making an argument. 4 is making a case that we have reached a point where we realize some of the widely held beliefs in science and even in popular imagination, they are not accurate. They are not accurate. And after that, there should be a description of why is it not accurate, what has been discovered in the research. You will not go back to what scientists are doing. They have been studying the sense of body from within, which is called interoception. So 4, because it tails off, the end of the sentence tails off into what our belief system has been wrong on so far. It cannot be a sentence that comes in between. It has to be the last sentence, because after this, you will most likely find another section or next set of sentences will be talking of what is wrong with the widely held belief. And therefore, the answer to this question will be 3, 2, 1. Okay. And those are the 5 questions that I was supposed to do. Hopefully, you shared my struggle. You understood or at least saw some things that you might find actionable at the time you're solving. Now, the 5 questions that you are supposed to solve, I will display them. They will be on the screen for some 5-6 seconds. And I would want you to pause the video, come up with your answer, then to the next question, to the next question, to the next question, to the next question, do all 5, and then check your answers with the ones that are provided in the description box below. First one. Second one. Third one. One. This is also about the bottom. I think there is this formatting error. This is continuing in the same line. It's continuing in the same line. Yeah. And the last one. And that will be all for this week's questions. Hopefully you solve them. Hopefully you learn them. Whatever answers you reach, you can happily comment them down below. How many correct you got, how many wrong you got. If at all you disagree with some answer given, you can also ask for a more detailed version in the comments, and we will get back to you with a more detailed description of why that should be accurate. And that will be all for this week's video. Hopefully you learned something. See you in the next week's episode. Thank you.